Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny and we live and garden in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today's project on April 21st is to put my tomato plants into the ground. It's the earliest I've ever done it. Let's go ahead and get this done. We've had a really strange spring this year. The warm weather came really early and it has stayed pretty warm. We've been very dry, we've been warmer than normal, and our temperatures now are steadily above 50 degrees at night, all the way early as now. Our last frost was in March this year. It's just crazy how warm this spring has been. And so my tomato plants they're chomping at the bit to get into the ground. They are doing really well. This is just one of them. Um, and so I'm going to go ahead and put them in the ground. Why not? Now, I am not an expert in tomato growing. As you know, I'm experimenting with a new vegetable garden this year. And so I'm probably not the best person to be going to ask how to do anything in the vegetable garden. But I have grown tomatoes before, and I know enough to know that you really don't want to put your tomatoes out into the ground until your soil temperature is well above 50 degrees. Some say above 60 degrees. Also, you want your nighttime temperatures to stay above 50 degrees. If you put your tomato plants out into soil that's too cold or into nights that are too cold, then the plants will be stunted or might even die. So we need to make sure that it is warm enough. Now, I've looked at our 10-day forecast, and we are staying mostly above 50 degrees. We have maybe 2 nights in the 10-day forecast that go below 50 degrees, and it's in the upper 40s. So I think I'll be okay, but also I could put a cloche over my tomato plants and protect them in that cold weather. So I think that's probably what I'll do if we still are predicted to go below 50 degrees. So now, first, let's check the soil temperature. I'm just going to use my handy dandy meat thermometer here. This is an electronic one, a digital one. You can see that the ambient temperature of the air right now is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the area that I'll be putting my peppers in, and my tomatoes are going to go in over there. So let's go over there and test the soil temperature. All right, so I'm just going to put this thermometer into the soil all the way down and then see what the temperature says. It looks like 65 degrees Fahrenheit to me. So let me check over by the edge where the stones are. Maybe it's chillier over here. Still 65, so that's pretty good. And I'm just going to check one more time just for good measure. This is an area that got watered last night, so it might be a little chillier. Yeah, 63 degrees there. So this space here where I'm going to be putting my tomato plants is 65, 63 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is plenty warm to receive tomato plants. Now, I have, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 tomato plants. I clearly am not going to fit 9 tomato plants into that space. So I'm going to be putting them into the back edges of the second and third levels of my tiered gardens. Originally, this was going to be all cut flowers, and that was going to be dahlias along the back edge there, but my dahlias didn't return, and I prioritized my tomatoes over cut flowers. So I'm going to be putting a few of them, probably 3 in this space, but then I'm going to put the rest of them, probably 3 on each level, down along the back there. I do have some larkspur in here, and also I just planted seedlings of strawflower in there. I'm just going to go ahead and intermingle my tomato plant. I'll probably put one tomato plant right there. That's currently a weed anyway, so I'll probably put it right between these 2 larkspur, and then one here and one there, and then down on this end, I'll put 3 tomato plants across here as well. As far as staking the tomato plants go, I will probably, up on the top level, I'll be using some probably metal stakes to hold them up. But in the second and third tier gardens, I'm going to get some more of these trellis panels so that I'll actually have those same trellis panels on all 3 levels. And I think that will be pretty, and it will be nice and sturdy for the tomatoes to grow on. I think we're probably okay, but just for good measure, let's measure this soil temp here. Yep, 63, that's good. How about over here? A little bit warmer, 64, good. All right, so that's going to be fine. I'm sure this is as warm as the others as well, but I just, for completeness sake. 62, a little chillier down the hill. And over here, 63. These are the tomato seedlings that I've been growing. I started these from seed indoors on, February 25th, and they've been growing indoors since then. I do have a few more than this, but I'm giving some away to friends. I have 4 varieties that I grew, and I have one that a friend of mine gave me. This is a Roma type tomato. I'm not exactly sure which particular variety it is, maybe just plain Roma. So that's going to be the paste type tomato, and I have one of those. I had 2, now I have 1 carbon tomato. This is an heirloom variety. It grows, as you might guess from its name, a rich, dark, brownish, almost black colored tomato. They get really large, 8 to 12 ounces each, and they are crack resistant. So I'm hopeful that I won't have any trouble with these carbon tomatoes cracking. Now, one of them died, and I am going to assume that that is from rough handling during transplant. I had these as seedlings in smaller cell trays, and then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I potted them up into this size pot, and I think I probably crushed this stem. Either that or it's damping off, but I don't think it's damping off because it's fine at the surface of the soil. It's really only a problem like right here, like right where I would have grabbed it. So that's just a lesson in when you're handling seedlings, be super careful and don't damage the stems. That's what can happen. Now, I do have more carbon seeds. I probably will go ahead and start just a couple more seeds of the carbon variety so that I can have 2 plants of it. The other varieties that I have are Brandywine. These look really nice, don't they? Oh, these are growing together. There we go. These are blush tomatoes. And finally, sun gold. Again, proviso. I am not a tomato expert. I am a novice at best. But what I understand is that you can grow tomatoes in a small amount of space. If you're using the square foot gardening method, you can allocate 1 square foot per tomato plant. But if you do that, you have to stake them up straight up and you have to prune them so that they don't go all floppy and bushy all over the place. Other resources say to allow 3 feet of spacing for each tomato plant, especially the larger indeterminate ones like the Brandywines. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to fit 3 tomatoes in this triangular spaced area. And I'm not sure which of these types are going to get the biggest or the smallest or whatever. I'm just going to choose 3 for here, 3 for there, and 3 for down there, and just hope that that all works out. I will be learning along with all of you as you watch what's happening here this summer. For planting, now tomatoes have these little hairs all along the sides of the stem. And those can turn into roots if you plant the stem all the way into the soil. So what I'm going to do for all of my tomato plants is identify the top little bit, probably that much, maybe even just that much of my tomato plant. And I'm going to take off all of the lower stems and I'm going to plant the entire stem and root system down in the ground. You can also lay them down in the soil and bend them like that and plant them like that. So, and then what will happen is all along this stem, it'll develop this beautiful root system, and that will help keep the plant healthier. It'll give it more access to water, and it will help it stand up nice and tall and strong. Having said that, though, all of the tomatoes I'm growing today are indeterminate types, which means they continue to grow, grow, grow. They don't stop growing until a frost kills them. So you need to have strong supports for your tomatoes. In this space, I'll be using tall stakes, But down along there, I'll be using these panels like I have my peas on. I don't have the panels yet, but I've got a little bit of time before I'm going to need them. I'm going to be planting with some fertilizer into the hole. Now, all of my garden beds here have already been amended with compost. So that's already in the soil. And so I'm going to be adding this flower tone. Now, tomato experts have specific fertilizer ingredients that they like, but I looked around my garage. I have holly tone, flower tone, and plant tone right now. And of those three, flower tone is probably the one that's best, not only because it offers nitrogen, but it also offers phosphorus and potassium. So the NPK value of this is 345. So it's actually lower in nitrogen and higher in phosphorus and potassium, which is good for flower and fruit production. So I think a specific tomato fertilizer might not be 345 or might not be those ratios, but this is what I have. This is what I'm going to be using. Use what you have. All right. And if you're a tomato grower and you have a lot of experience, let me know what fertilizer you like to use on your tomatoes, and maybe share with everybody in the comment section so that we can all learn from you. That'd be great. All right, so I'm going to be digging 3 holes here. I'm just going to use my hand trowel and put the fertilizer in and then cover them back up with soil and then water them in. And that's going to be my planting method. Pretty easy. Looking at the space I have available, I think I'm actually going to plant one of them like right here. And my thinking is that when the peas are finished, I'll be able to lean the tomato over onto this trellis and I won't have to have a tall stake here for it. So I've planted some beet seeds right there and some all along the base of the peas. That's what that is right here. But this is violets and wild onions. So I can plant right here and just move these violets and onions out. Leave the beets, let them stay there, and then have my first tomato plant here. As it grows, I'll be able to lean it over onto there. Soil's looking really lovely. This is a combination of compost and shredded leaves from last fall and topsoil. And I have to go way down before I hit any clay, so I like that a lot. I'm going as deep as I can easily so that I can cover up a lot of this stem. In a few rocks. I think I've hit the area where it used to be just lawn. Here we go. Just a handful of flower tone. And let's see. Which ones should I put up here? I think I'm going to put the Roma closest to the trellis because I don't know if it's going to be more or less vigorous than my other varieties here. This was grown by my friend. It's got a beautiful root system. It has some seedlings at the base, which I don't know what they are, but they might be basil. She might have been smart that way. Basil is a great companion plant for tomatoes. All right, now I'm going to take off these lower leaves. And this one too. And I'm going to kind of lay this seedling down in so that I can get as much of this root as possible. In fact, I want to try to widen my hole a little bit to give a little bit more room for the stem under there. I'm going to lay it down like that. And then, you know what? I'm going to lay it the other way. And that way, the stem will turn into roots and the plant will poke up like that. Here we go. I'm going to make just the smallest little well around it so that when I water, it'll not all just run off. Over the course of the season, that's going to be less important, but for now, I like that. There we go. There's the first tomato of the season into the ground. This is a Roma style tomato planted by my friend. Thank you, Lori. And now I'm going to do one here and one here. All right, and I think I'm going to put the brandywines up here as well. It's giving me trouble coming out. I don't want to pull on the stem because I think that's what killed my... There we go. All right. Nice root system on there. Put that down in there. All right, so I've got one Roma tomato here and then 2 brandywines. In this bed, I don't have any mulch, so I need to get some shredded leaves or some straw or grass clippings or something to mulch these tomatoes so that they don't lose all their moisture in the hot weather to come. And then over in my second tier, I will have, that's 1 carbon right there, and there will be another carbon there. I just need to start another one because of the one that I lost. And then this one is a sun gold. Now, I did put a tomato right between my larkspur plants. I think the larkspur are going to grow up, flower, and be done before the tomato is really a competitor for it. And then there are some straw flowers in here, but I think the tomato can grow just fine near those straw flowers. At least that's what I'm hoping. And if I have to sacrifice one or the other, I'll sacrifice the straw flowers or just move them or something. And then again, I will be putting another trellis, a 4-panel trellis here to create supports for the 3 tomato plants that will eventually be there. And then down this way, same thing, 3 tomato plants, 1 more sun gold, that's this first one, and then these 2 are the blush. And again, it will have another of the 4-panel trellises right there. I was going to use tall dahlias as kind of a green wall here, but I'll use tomatoes instead. Well, that brings me to the end of today's video. Thank you for joining me. Don't worry, if I get a cold night below 50 degrees, I will put a cloche over top of each of these plants, and that should protect them just fine until we get past those cold nights. Well, here I am on May 3rd, and the tomatoes have been under cloches for over a week now. We've had temperatures in the low to mid 40s at night and in only the mid to sometimes even just the low to mid 50s in the daytime for the last 5, 6, 7 days. And it's not really going to warm up again for probably another 5 days. So I did put the tomatoes in too early. I have been keeping them warm under these cloches, and I just hope that this cold weather hasn't stunted them and prevented them from growing healthily after the weather warms back up, because you never know what'll happen. Live and learn. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and I hope I'll see you again in another video really soon. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.